Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Virginia, and today I'll be sharing with you my last video for 2025. And I thought, what better way to end out the year than with some religious DIYs, some nativity DIYs that celebrate the true reason for the season. Thanks to all of you who requested this in the comments. It was really fun to make. Starting off, we're making a bottle angel, and it's actually really easy. I took a bottle that I had just laying around the house. I think this had some sparkling lemonade in it at one time. And I'm taking a ping pong ball. You could also use the foam balls that I know Dollar Tree and any craft store sells. To make some angel hair, I just grabbed some yarn. I went with this blonde yarn, and I hot glued it to the top of the ping pong ball. Then it was time to embellish her head and her face, so I added a wreath that actually came from a Dollar Tree ornament, and then I took a white pipe cleaner and just made a halo out of that. So I hot glued everything down, the halo and the little wreath crown, and then you can't see it, but I hot glued the head to the top of our glass bottle, and then I gave our angel a nice haircut. For the wings, I'm taking this gold bow from the Dollar Tree. You could, of course, cut wings out of some crafting paper, but this bow worked out perfectly, and I think it really looks like the angel wing silhouette. For the bottom, because this bottle was actually quite tall, I added some burlap ribbon. Then I took some jute and I wound that around the center of the bottle angel. And then as the final touch, I added a little embellishment with some holly and some pine cones there to her center. At first, I thought it would be really cute to put a face on the angel, so I went in with my paint markers, but I actually decided against it, and luckily, because the surface of the ping pong ball is very slick and they were wet paint markers, I was able to just wipe the face off with a wet wipe. The face was cute, but I thought it looked a little bit more classic and timeless with just the blank face, so that's what I decided to end up going with. The next DIY is a nativity scene that I ended up using as a large ornament, but you could also just display it as a decor piece. And all of the supplies I actually already had in my craft stash, so this was a really easy one for me to do. Starting off with those Jenga or tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree, I had a little bit taller one, and then I had a shorter one, which I ended up cutting with the miter shears to be Mary. And I went in with some brown paint, and I just did brown paint all over the tumbling tower blocks, and also some wood beads, which are going to be used as the heads. After I painted these, I set them aside to dry, and I moved on to what's going to be the base for what is my ornament. So this is the tag sign that I had from the Dollar Tree in my craft stash, so I wanted to repurpose it. I cut out some wood-looking craft paper and then just laid down some hot glue and placed this right on top. For some embellishments around the scene, I took a star wood cutout and painted that brown, and then I also liked this kind of holly cluster, so I thought that would look pretty up at the top. Then I was trying to figure out my layout, so we had our Joseph, our Mary, and I used one of the little angel wood pieces from the Dollar Tree for the baby Jesus. I just took the wings off. I also took some jute cord, and that is what I made for the shepherd's hook that Joseph is going to have. And then I liked how the placement of everything was, so I went in with my hot glue and hot glued down the embellishment that I liked at the top. I decided to go with a bow and against the holly bundle, and then I needed to accessorize my Mary and Joseph, so I went with this yellow fabric to go on her, and then I went basic just with some brown fabric for Joseph. You're just going to hot glue this down and kind of just see where the fabric lays, and then add any hot glue if any of the pieces are coming up. Again, once I figured out my placement and how I wanted them to look, I hot glued them down, hot glued down the shepherd's piece as well, and then moved on to baby Jesus. So I took the little angel, again, I took off the wings, so that's how we have what looks more like a baby piece. And I took some jute and wrapped that all the way around. And then for almost like a swaddle or a blanket around him, I took some white fabric and just hot glued that all into place. For the bottom, I did hot glue some of that brown fabric that I had as like a fabric scrap because I thought it would look like dirt. And then I went over it with some raffia to be the hay, for the barn that they are staying in. So that was a little bit difficult to hot glue, but I'm glad I put the brown fabric in place. Otherwise, it would have been a white backdrop. But I love the way that this turned out. Originally, I thought it was going to be just a decor piece, but I had some large gaps in my Christmas tree, and this one already had a hanger on it. So I thought it fit perfectly, and I love the way it looks, and of course, the message. Let me know in the comments down below what you are most looking forward to this Christmas season. I'm really excited to be with all of my friends and family, especially those that I haven't seen in a while. So please let me know down below in the comments. I love reading all of your responses. They make me so happy. I grabbed one of the wood signs from the Dollar Tree. They have a ton out right now, Christmas trees, stars. This one was an ornament. So I picked up this one and a couple of the Christmas trees. And I also grabbed one of their wallpaper tiles, and I just placed this right on the wood ornament, and this had a sticky side to it, so I just stuck it down and then grabbed my X-Acto knife to cut through. I really had to press hard on this one because it was very textured, but after I went around with the X-Acto knife, I made any other little cuts with my small precision scissors and then moved on to painting. So this shade is called Cashew by Waverly Paint. It's almost like a yellowy off-white, and this was a little bit hard to do actually because of how textured and kind of 3D the wallpaper was, so I really had to push in my foam brush. So just something to think about. Maybe don't use a foam brush. I would not recommend it. I would have gone in with a smaller detailing brush. But after I pushed in all of this paint and let it dry, it was time to add in the shading, which is my favorite part when you're doing a craft with something like this wallpaper tile that is very textured, because the brown is really just going to cling to the raised areas, and I think it gives such a nice finished look. So I went over this with my favorite dark brown paint from Apple Barrel. Then adding into accessorizing this. So I picked up one of the galvanized signs. These came 3 to a pack with some Christmas sayings. This one was peace. And I also picked up the wood nativity set at Dollar Tree. They have the 3 wise men and this little nativity scene here. So I thought I was gonna go with the wise men at first, and then I decided to change it up and went with the nativity scene. So I used the same brown paint that I used to shade our ornament on these wood pieces, and I just did one brown coat of this, and then I did go in and add a little bit of white just to shade everything. And once it was completely dry, used my hot glue to adhere that onto our sign. And now you can see I did also paint the upper part of the ornament with brown paint too, even though that's going to be covered, and went in to hot glue everything down. I wanted to have a little bit of greenery, so I grabbed this piece, which was actually off of a Dollar Tree ornament. It had the greenery, some holly berries, an acorn, and also a ribbon, so it was all set to go, and hot glued that onto the top. Then for the hanger, I wanted something a little different than just a plain old jute hanger, so I grabbed some wood beads, put a bunch of those onto a piece of jute, and that is how I'm going to be able to hold up this sign. I really love how it turned out. This would look great for some mantle decor, but I think I might put it on one of the interior doors in my house. Next up, so I actually do not own a nativity scene. I feel like almost every family, has one with all of the pieces. I don't have one, so I was clothing shopping. I went to this place called Altered State, which is a faith-based clothing store. So they had a lot of Christmas decor out, and this is going off something that they were selling for around $70. It was a wood nativity scene, and I wanted to recreate it, and I was going to use Dollar Tree supplies, but I actually ended up using free supplies. My father-in-law is redoing his deck, so he cut some pieces of his scrap wood that he was just going to throw out for me. I'll leave the sizing of all of these in the link down below if you want them, but you're going to end up needing 9 pieces if you want to do the scene that I am doing. I went in with brown Apple Barrel paint. The reason I did that instead of a stain is because actually these wood pieces, he told me, were PVC wood, which is almost like a plastic texture. It doesn't take stain like a normal wood piece would, so you can use whatever you want for your background. Then I created these stencils on my own. Lots of stores right now sell all of the nativity and Christmas type stencils. You can also just print these out online and cut out the shape, so you don't need to make a stencil and paint it in. you could just cut out these shapes onto some white printer paper and use either Mod Podge or some glue to create these. But I did use stencil vinyl for this. I have all of my animals and my different characters that we're going to have here for the Nativity, and something that I've learned when creating stencils is to lay down a little bit of Mod Podge first. That's what you see me put after I put the stencil onto the piece of wood. That way when we go back in with my white paint, it is not going to have any of that bleeding or leaking through on the stencil. And this worked on 8 out of the 9. One of them came out, had a little bit of a paint bleed on it, but for the most part, this technique really works for me. And now anytime that I use a stencil, even if it's not a vinyl stencil, if it's just one that I get from the Dollar Tree, I always put down a little bit of Mod Podge first because it just makes everything a lot cleaner and you don't have to worry about having any of the paint bleed through your stencil. The wood nativity set that I saw in the clothing store had little gold accents on it, so I wanted to do that as well. So I picked out something on each of the wood blocks, whether it be the hooves or the paws on the animals, or maybe the clothing that was worn. Each block I did put a gold accent on, which I really like. It added a little bit more color to everything and made it pop. I'm using the gold metallic paint by Folk Art. And of course, like everything, I love the rustic look, so I went in with a dry brush and a little bit of white paint and distressed everything. Of course, if this isn't your style, if you're not into more of that rustic farmhouse look, then you don't have to do this step, but it's something that I really like, so I did add this. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a nativity scene that you set up every Christmas. I would love to know what it looks like and how long it's been in your family. Next up, this is a smaller, quick and easy DIY if you don't have a ton of time on your hands, but you want to do a Christmas craft with some true meaning behind it. You only need a couple of Dollar Tree supplies to make this one, and again, it is super quick. So I grabbed one of the wood signs from the Dollar Tree. They come out with these every season. I think they're just constantly pretty much out now. And then I grabbed some of this scrapbooking paper. I pick up mine from Hobby Lobby, and I lined the inside of the wood box with this. I believe this one was a Christmas song. I can't remember. I would have loved if it was Silent Night. I will actually leave a link down below. I have a printable for Silent Night that I found online. So if you want to use that, there you go. You don't even need to pick up scrapbooking paper. You could use that for the background. And then that same wood pack that I used earlier in the previous DIY, I also had the 3 wise men. So I went ahead and painted this brown and added that gold detailing onto their gifts that they are holding. Then I grabbed some greenery sprigs and I tied those together, added in some holly berries, even one of these little pieces that fell off, I think a different floral arrangement, and it's sparkly and looks very Christmassy, so I added that, and also the acorn to the top of this. Next up, embracing the true meaning of the holiday season, I made this Holy Night ornament. I actually picked up this ornament sign at the end of the holiday season last year when they are 50% off. I really recommend doing that if you love making different types of signs like me. This Oh Holy Night music sheet, I will have the printable link down below. I found it for free off Pinterest, and I printed it in the landscape view so that it would be large enough to cover the entire ornament, and it did print on 2 sheets of paper. I'll show you how I put that together. To adhere it onto the wood sign, I just put down a light layer of Mod Podge and pressed the sheet in. Then with the second sheet of paper, since this printed out, I wanted to make sure that it was long enough for the ornament sign. So it did print on 2 different sheets of paper, but it was really easy to just cut it out and paste it kind of back together like a school project. Before I added back on the stainless steel ornament topper, I did want to dirty up the paper a little bit. It was looking way too crisp and white, and I wanted more of the rustic view. So I grabbed a damp paper towel and some stain. It's the Waverly Stain in Antique. I also used the stain on the 3 wise men wood cutout, which is in a pack at the Dollar Tree. And I thought it was looking a little bare, so I ended up taking the ornament topper back off and adding in some greenery, of course, also from the Dollar Tree, and adding that underneath the ornament topper before hot gluing on our 3 wise men onto the center of the sign. I love decorating my mantle for the Christmas season and was trying to think, usually I'm doing tablescapes, but I kind of wanted to do something that you'd be able to place on your mantle and have a mantelscape. So this is a really easy DIY. I just used a lot of different items from the Dollar Tree and the Target dollar spot. First up, one of these wood signs that actually came out during the fall season, so it's probably still out in your Dollar Tree since it is still technically fall. It said "Gathered Together" on it, and I tried painting over it, but didn't like how that came out, so I ended up just using some wood scrapbooking paper from Hobby Lobby and placing that over it, and I just used a glue stick. It didn't feel like getting out the hot glue or the Mod Podge for this craft, so I'm just using my Dollar Tree glue stick to adhere the paper onto our sign. I love all the different wood ornaments, wood pieces, wood stickers the Dollar Tree comes out with, especially these snowflakes. They were on a sticker sheet, so I painted it powder blue and attached it with one of these glue dots. Then, using my cutting machine, I cut out the words "Hope" in a metallic silver vinyl, but I actually think it would look even better if you picked up the wood letters from the Crafter Square section of the Dollar Tree. It would give it a more rustic look. Next, I adhered this church ornament onto the center of our hope sign and then added Dollar Tree florals, trees, and some Dollar Trees from the Target dollar spot to complete our mantelscape. Next up, I wanted a more religious ornament on the tree rather than just the baubles. I love those too, but I saw this at the Dollar Tree and thought I could make something really cute out of it, and I also loved the SVG file. You can pick up the wood slice, which is the base of this ornament, in the Crafter's Square section. I always see them hanging there, so definitely snag them before it really becomes Christmas season. And I'm using a little bit of this red and white baker's twine to turn it into an ornament, and adding some little white and red balls onto the ornament as an embellishment. And I will have this True Story SVG file linked down below. Next, this is probably the only item that I saw in Kirkland's that I would have been tempted to buy because I thought it was so beautiful, but I really like my recreation too, so you'll have to let me know down in the comments below how I did. This was probably the hardest one because I had to freehand draw. I grabbed one of the frames from Dollar Tree. I actually used this for my bridal shower. I will have that linked up above. If you haven't seen my bridal shower video, I did it using mostly Dollar Tree items. And I painted what was originally some white. I painted that black to go a little bit more. Then I printed out Silent Night, Holy Night, the sheet music. I'll have that linked down below too. And now I'm going to start sketching out the church. I just showed that picture. I am really obsessed with that. If it ever goes on sale, maybe at the end of the year and I get a coupon, maybe I'll purchase it because I really did love it that much. I started off sketching everything with one of the chalk pens that the Dollar Tree sells because that's really easy to erase with a wet wipe to just kind of sketch out how I wanted the church to look. And if you look back at the Kirkland's picture, this is a very messy, sketched out. It's not a perfect looking church. So I kind of just tried to do as many lines as I could to make it look like someone took a pencil and was sketching everything out. So I just went over all of my chalk markings with a Sharpie pen. I tried using a gel pen first, an infusible ink pen, but at the end of the day, you couldn't really see it too well. So a good old-fashioned Sharpie was just the best way to recreate the church on the glass part. I came across this SVG file on Design Space and absolutely loved it, so knew I wanted to use it in some of my decor, and I also wanted to use the wood cutouts from Dollar Tree again. Another great thing about this DIY is there are very few supplies involved. I first have one of these frames from the Dollar Tree, and then I had some of this wood-looking scrapbooking paper, which I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just figuring out the sizing of my paper and cutting off any of the excess before gluing that down to the inside of our frame, and that is going to be the backdrop for our wood image. So this wood image I got in a pack from the Dollar Tree. It was an entire nativity scene. So we have have the three wise men, and I just used some Waverly stain on that before adhering down this decal image which says "Glory to the Newborn King." I will have a free printable of that link down below, but you could always paint or write it on using a marker. After getting some metallic gold paint and painting the gifts of the three wise men, just so that you'd be able to see them a little bit better on our wood background, I did distress them using a chip brush from Apple Barrel and some white paint. Again, this is just so that you would be able to see them a bit better since it was kind of blending into the wood scrapbooking paper. As the final touch, I had a glittery gold star in a Dollar Tree wood sticker pack. So I placed that on the top of our sign, and then just using some glue dots, I placed the three wise men down at the bottom. I wanted to include one of my favorite DIYs from a couple of years ago because I felt it really fit the theme of the video. I hope that you enjoy this church DIY. To begin creating our church, I am taking two of the arrow signs from the Dollar Tree. The smaller wood arrow I did cut in half, and then the larger wood arrow we're going to be leaving as is. And I'm taking the shade Territorial Beige by Apple Barrel, and I'm doing that to paint the larger wood arrow sign. And then on the smaller arrow that I have cut into two pieces, I took a dark brown shade, but I actually ended up not liking how the dark brown came out. I thought it was looking too much like a haunted house. It was just coming out really dark and not at all the snowy chapel that I wanted. So I ended up actually flipping the smaller arrow over. I did like how the larger arrow came out when I added the darker brown color. It really kind of created a fake wood. Well, it was wood, but you know what I mean. It came looking out a little bit more barnwood. And then for the smaller arrows, I just flipped them over and painted them in a lighter brown. And then I went in with white paint and dry brushed it to again make it look like that barnwood that I have seen so many people making churches out of barnwood and pallet wood. I don't know where they got that from, but I didn't have access to that, so these Dollar Tree arrows had to work for me. And then I just hot glued the larger arrow on top of the two smaller ones, and you can see our church is starting to be created. For the cross that is going to be going at the top of the church, I took two toothpicks and I just snapped them in half to create our cross. And then I'm taking a silvery gray color, but I'm going to be covering this later in white paint to make it look nice and snowy. So really the color that you paint the cross doesn't really matter because we're going to be going over it with white paint. And then once this paint had dried, I added a bit of hot glue to, of course, create our cross. And in the meantime, while that paint is drying before I hot glue it together, I am using these tumbling tower blocks to create an awning that's going to be going over our church door. I didn't do anything to the blocks quite yet because first I'm going to be painting the church door, and I just kind of wanted to tell how large I needed to make the door. So I'm taking a dark brown paint, which is going to be the outline of our door. And then in just a moment, I'm going back in with white paint to create the actual door, not the frame. I painted the two tumbling tower blocks in the same Territorial Beige color. So while those were drying before I add them above my church door, I went ahead and hot glued the cross together, and then put a little hot glue at the bottom and placed that at the top of our church. Then I moved back to the church door area, and I am hot gluing the tumbling tower blocks to the top area of the door. And then I could have gone in with some white paint to give the snowy effect, but I had some white felt on hand, so at first I had cut out two different shapes, and I'm just trying to create the most realistic snow that I can. I ended up going with a larger piece instead of two smaller ones, and that is what I hot glue on top of the tumbling tower blocks. I also took some white paint and added it to the cross at the top of our church to make it look like it had a bunch of snow on it. I took my remaining white felt fabric and added it to the other edges of the church, adding it all the way at the top and on that middle section as well. The finishing touch was adding a bit of color to my snowy church. I found these ornaments from the Dollar Tree. You got two of them in a pack, and I thought they were so cute. So first I took off the ornament section, and I didn't want to mess up the tree, so I just kind of twisted and pulled, and that came off. And then I added some hot glue on the back as well as the bottom base, and I placed 2 trees opposite the door. I staged this on my mantle and included 2 of the larger flocked snowy Christmas trees from the Dollar Tree. Next up is a DIY all about the true reason for the season. Our next DIY is using a pizza pan from the Dollar Tree. I painted the entire pizza pan in the color Territorial Beige, and then I went in shading with a darker brown color called Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel, but ultimately I decided to actually paint the entire inner section of the pizza pan in a dark brown color, that Burnt Umber color, which you'll see in just a moment when the whole pizza pan goes a little bit darker. Then I have this really pretty wood nativity set from the Dollar Tree. I was so excited that I found this at my Dollar Tree. And at first I was a little confused because baby Jesus, Mary, and Joseph did not all fit in this little awning. And then I realized, oh, it's only meant for baby Jesus, so they had to go on the outer parts. And I stained this using a dark brown stain called Antique by Waverly. You could turn this into a hanging sign by just adding a jute hanger on the back of the pizza pan. I'm going to use it actually standing up. I think I'm going to place it on my mantle. And now we're going to move into decorating the top of the pizza pan. I'm doing this with greenery. So I have this green garland and these lighter green sprigs from the Dollar Tree. So I placed those on top and then started shaping them. And of course we had to add in some snowiness and some outdoors, so I added pine cones and then these sparkly white picks. And also I made a double bow. I have a whole tutorial on this in another video, so I will link that above. I also cut out Jesus is the reason for the season using my cutting machine, and I placed that down, but you could always freehand it or print something out and paste it. And then I just took some of this jute cord and made it a little bit spirally and curly and added that to the opposite sides of our bow. I made these tumbling tower block people last year for Valentine's Day, but I took that DIY and transformed it into a Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus nativity scene. To start building our people, I took some hot glue and I'm just gluing the tumbling tower blocks together. And I ended up doing this for every single one, so they all came in pairs. And then I combined them together to make our couple. I wanted one of my wood people to be taller than the other one, but an entire tumbling tower block was too tall for me. So I ended up cutting one of the tumbling tower blocks in half and hot gluing them together. Then I used this yellow color called Taffy, and I painted some wood beads, and they are going to be my people's heads. Next, it was time to attach the heads to the bodies, and I did this with some hot glue. And then to make our baby Jesus, I am taking a traditional clothespin and my miter shears. I got these off Amazon. I'll link them below. They're really great for kind of substituting the use of a saw in a lot of my wood projects. And as you can see, this is going to be placed there, but before I do that, I am first taking the shade Territorial Beige by Apple Barrel, and I just painted Joseph a different color than Mary, and then I took some white Waverly chalk paint, and I am painting that clothespin that I just cut. For the material that's going to be going on Mary and Joseph's heads, I took some of this scrap fabric that I had. It was kind of a linen or like a muslin kind of fabric. And for Mary's, I kept it white. For Joseph's, I did stain it in a bit of leftover coffee that I had in the morning. So I let that sit in the coffee for about 20 minutes and then I pulled it out to dry. And I'm just taking some hot glue and kind of getting Mary's clothing to go over her head, using the hot glue to position it into place. And my coffee stained fabric still wasn't dry yet, so I moved on to positioning baby Jesus since I had the hot glue out. Then I wrapped some jute around him so it looked like that was what was actually holding him up. and then I also made a jute bow and hot glued that onto the center. Once my coffee stained fabric had dried, I'm doing to Joseph the exact same thing that I did to Mary, using the hot glue to position my fabric into place. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed all of these nativity-themed Christmas DIYs. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.